What up? I got Naskin here with me. This ain't a diss song, but yeah, you know what it is. I'm a cheesehead, y'all niggas cheese whiz. Pittsburgh Steelers, that's nothing. That Super Bowl ring, that's nothing. Pull up in your town when you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
What's the LaFleur family Thanksgiving look like today?
That's a great question. I don't know. We'll see what time I get out of here. No, we're just going to hang out with family and friends. My wife's got her folks in town, so just small get-together.
Matt, how did you think Brian looked? He appeared to us before we got kicked out that he was going to be pretty active in practice.
Yeah, no, he was, it's something that we'll wait and see, throughout the week, but I thought he looked okay.
Did it surprise you at all that he was out there today?
No, it doesn't surprise me. He's a pretty tough guy, so I know if he's able to go, he will.
And what do you know about your new tackle, and when will he be here?
Well, I don't think anything's official yet, so I'll refrain from that for now.
You ever had a guy that you coached that had been retired and then came back, though? Or will this be a first for you if it becomes official?
Yeah, that'll be a first.
Man, how at this point, like with Sternberger and Tanya, and I know obviously one's off IR, Robert's been injured for a bit. What's the balance there? Maybe trying to work those guys in potentially either together. Obviously with veterans like Jimmy and Mercedes, who's been part of it for 11, 12 weeks. Is there a balance there with what those guys can do athletically potentially for you, and maybe cutting reps for some vets?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean those guys get a big bulk of the practice reps, just with how we want to preserve, Mercedes and Jimmy. So they do get a lot of practice reps, and they've been improving. And it was nice to finally get Bobby back. And but as far as game days and whatnot, we'll see how it shakes out. A lot of those decisions are based on special teams too, and their contributions in that department.
I think Bill was asking me the other day about chemistry. When you're 8-2, I know it's not easy to have good chemistry, but it is easier if you're winning, obviously. What have you found out maybe about your guys and your chemistry in the last day and a half now that you're back to work after what happened last week?
Yeah, I think these guys have been businesslike. I think these guys genuinely care about each other, so they're going to put their best foot forward for each other. And for this team, I've said it a million times, but the character in that locker room is as good as any I've been around, and I know they're going to give their best shot each and every day, and so ultimately it does no good to talk about it. You got to go out there and do it. So we got another tough task. You got to go on the road and play a team that's been extremely competitive, that hasn't. It hasn't always gone their way, but if you look at the last 6 games, it's been a one-possession game in the fourth quarter, no matter who they're playing. So that's life in the National Football League. We gotta get ready to roll, and it's always an interesting week when you have a holiday that falls smack dab in the middle of your preparation. But our guys, I like the focus. I like how they've approached the week, and we just got to go out there and do it.
Matt, how do you look at how your special teams as a whole has performed? Last year, these guys have led the league in penalties. I think your penalties are fairly manageable. You haven't given up a ton of big plays. They gave up big plays last year. But then you haven't made a bunch of big plays either. So where do you fall on that? Are you okay with it being safe and, not a lot of bad plays happening? Or would you like to take more chances?
Yeah, it's a fine line, because I've been a part of teams where special teams has made a huge difference, both positively and negatively. So I'm happy that we really haven't been put in a bad position on teams. Like you said, we always talk about penalty-free, and that's been a big plus. There hasn't been too many just critical penalties where we're getting blocks in the back or holdings and we're starting backed up. or vice versa, where you're going down on coverage units and you're getting called for a face mask or whatever it might be to really negatively impact the field position. So that's been a plus, and we're always trying to find ways to create an explosive play, because I do think if you look at it, you look at teams that are able to generate explosive, game-changing plays on special teams, that's such an advantage, and it definitely will help you in your ability to win a football game.
I think earlier in the year, Sean said that he was maybe playing a little safe, being a first-year coach, that at times he was making sure there were going to be no really bad plays. Is there a point where, you want to take more chances, or has that already occurred, where you've been trying to go for blocks and things like that?
Yeah, we haven't, there's been, especially as of late, it seemed like a lot of the times where maybe you might be aggressive, it just, the opportunities haven't necessarily presented themselves, because how aggressive do you want to be if somebody's punting near midfield? It seems like that's where it's been happening quite a bit, and it's not really worth the risk at that moment in time. I think we evaluate on a week-by-week basis, depending on who we're playing, if we feel like we have an advantage to really go after somebody and attack them.
I asked you about the tempo thing yesterday, getting in and out of the huddle and getting the play clock down. We asked Aaron about it. He was saying that some plays have if it has a can attached to it, it's like 15 syllables. So are you okay with it playing out the way it does, or are there shortcuts besides the wristband that you can utilize? I'm just because frankly, it's the thing that fans complain about, and we're
Sure.
kind of the middle people in that. So I'm just wondering if you can explain what your options are, or if it's even a big concern to you.
The only time it becomes a concern to me if we're getting penalties, that's where then obviously it's a problem, because we never want that to occur. But I do think that's something that we're going to have to take a hard look, when we get to the off season, and how we can speed up that process and how we can make it better. But I think at this point in time, it's always hard to make wholesale changes at this time of the year. It just is, and I'm not certainly not making an excuse or anything, but that's something that we will look at, in the off season. How can you do things better? And that's not just with that. That's with everything, every facet. How can you do it better? And but like I said, as long as we're not getting delay of games, and to Aaron's point, there are some long play calls. There's no doubt about it, and that definitely bogs down the time. And so we'll look at other ways to try to speed that up as well.
Does that create a challenge for you when you're trying to come up with the right play call and knowing that it maybe shrinks your time to think about it? Or do you usually have, if you're in a good rhythm, which I know you can't always be in when there's not the great execution, but does it compress your time to think about what you want to call to them?
Yeah, typically. So at least the way I do it typically is you have after you make a call, you have a couple calls in your mind that you're going to go to next. And unless something like drastically happens, whether it's a big play and you're into your red zone, or something goes wrong where you go the other way, you usually have a good idea of what play's coming to follow. And even when you go into those special situations, like let's say we get a bomb and we go down in the red area, I usually got a play earmarked that I wanted to get to. That's the first call.
And all those syllables matter, like you taught us when we first met you about the can plays and the importance of that. I mean, you do that, there's a reason why you do it. It's not just, I want to have really long verbal.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody wants to create long play calls. I mean, it's hard to spit it out to the quarterback, and it leaves more room for error. So that's not the intent. The intent is just to try to clearly communicate so that there are no misunderstandings out there or are no busts, so that our guys can go out and execute. But to your point, obviously, the longer the calls, the harder it is to get up and get going.
Matt, on an unrelated note, what is your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
I was afraid that was going to come. I don't know. I'm more of a steak guy personally, but I'll eat turkey. I'll suck it up, eat some turkey, or
Go to Rob's house, he's having steak.
you have a steak?
Yes, we
That's
are.
what I'm talking about.
Unfortunately, they're deep fried.
Even better.
That's good. Thank you.
Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. See y'all later.
It in. Oh yeah. Young Moolah, baby.